The last hope of Zephyria high above the crystal spires of Zephyria Prime. The sky burned red with the approach of death. Ambassador Thaline pressed her delicate blue hands against the observation deck's transparent walls, watching as another transport ship fled the dying world below. Her people, the Zephyrians, had ruled this sector of space for over 50,000 years through wisdom and peaceful negotiation. Now, in less than 3 months, everything they had built was crumbling. How many more ships have we lost? Thaline asked, her voice carrying the musical quality that all Zephyrians possessed. Her elegant form, tall and graceful with skin that shimmered like ocean water, trembled with barely contained emotion. Commander Valix approached from behind, his own blue features darkened with grief. 17 colony ships in the past day. The Crimson Swarm is moving faster than our evacuation efforts. He pulled up a holographic display showing their territory. Red markers indicated lost worlds, while yellow showed planets currently under attack. The green markers for safe worlds were disappearing one by one. The Crimson Swarm had appeared from the void between galaxies 6 months ago. They were a race of insectoid creatures the size of shuttlecraft, with razor-sharp claws and the ability to strip entire worlds of all organic matter within days. They consumed everything living, then moved on to the next world like a plague of cosmic locusts. Every weapon the Zephyrians had tried against them had failed. Energy shields meant nothing to creatures that could tear through metal with their bare claws. Plasma weapons only seemed to make them stronger. We must consider the emergency protocol, Valix said quietly, referring to something that hadn't been spoken of in 10,000 years. Thaline's eyes widened. The ancient beacon? But the legends say it was designed to summon mythical beings. Even if such creatures ever existed, they are surely gone now. The alternative is the extinction of our entire civilization, Valix replied. Every world in our empire will fall within 2 months if the swarm continues at this pace. Deep beneath the capital city, in chambers that had been sealed since before recorded history, the emergency beacon waited. It was a device left behind by the predecessors, an ancient race that had vanished long before the Zephyrians achieved spaceflight. According to the old texts, the beacon was designed to call for help from the greatest warriors in the universe during times of ultimate crisis. Q. Council of Elders gathered in the ancient chamber. The beacon itself was surprisingly small, no larger than a Zephyrian child, made of some unknown metal that seemed to absorb light. Symbols covered its surface in a script that no living being could read, yet somehow their meaning was clear to anyone who looked upon them. The inscription speaks of the Star Guardians, Elder Milo said, his ancient voice barely above a whisper. Beings of incredible power who emerged from the most dangerous world in the universe. They were said to possess weapons that could destroy entire fleets and the courage to face any enemy. Fairy tales, scoffed Elder Nyx. We need real solutions, not children's stories. What real solutions remain? Thaline challenged. We have tried everything. Our greatest scientists cannot stop the swarm. Our most powerful weapons barely slow them down. If there is even the smallest chance that the legends are true, we must try. The vote was close, but desperation won over skepticism. They would activate the beacon. The signal reaches the void. The activation required channeling energy from 3 fusion reactors through the ancient device. As power flowed into the beacon, the mysterious symbols began to glow with an inner light that hurt to look at directly. The device hummed with a sound that seemed to resonate in the bones of everyone present. Elder Milos placed his hands on the activation panel. If there are warriors out there who can help us, please hear our call. The light from the beacon suddenly exploded outward, passing through the walls, through the planet, and into space itself. The energy pulse traveled faster than any known form of communication, bending space and time as it searched across the galaxy for its intended recipients. An ordinary day in Space Captain. Elena Rodriguez was having what she considered a perfectly boring day, which was exactly how she liked it. Her cargo hauler, the Steady Prophet, was making routine runs between Earth's asteroid mining stations and the processing facilities on Mars. The ship wasn't much to look at, a boxy industrial vessel, designed for hauling ore, not for impressing anyone, but it paid the bills and kept her small crew employed. "Captain, we're getting some weird readings on the long-range scanners," called out her communications officer, Lieutenant James Park, from his station. "There's some kind of energy pulse heading our way." "Natural phenomenon?" Elena asked, not looking up from her coffee and daily reports. "I don't think so. The pattern is too regular and it's definitely artificial." Park's voice carried a note of confusion. "Actually, it seems to be some kind of transmission, but the frequency is unlike anything in our databases." Before Elena could respond, every screen on the ship lit up simultaneously. The bridge was suddenly filled with images that seemed to come from somewhere impossibly far away. They saw crystal cities burning under red skies, graceful blue-skinned beings fleeing in terror, and massive insectoid creatures swarming over beautiful worlds like a plague. The images were accompanied by emotions that hit the crew like a physical blow. Fear, desperation, and the overwhelming weight of impending extinction flooded their minds. Somehow, without understanding the alien language, they knew exactly what they were seeing. An entire civilization was dying and they were begging for help. What the hell was that? Elena gasped, gripping her chair as the visions faded. "Captain, I'm getting reports from every ship in the system," Park said, his face pale. "They all received the same transmission." Elena's mind raced. In her 20 years of space travel, she had never encountered anything like this. The images had felt real, more real than any simulation or recording. The aliens' desperation had been genuine, and the coordinates that had somehow been burned into her memory were calling to her. "Get me Admiral Thompson at Earth Defense Command," she ordered. "Priority 1. Earth responds." Admiral Sarah Thompson had seen a lot of strange things in her 30-year military career, but nothing quite like the reports flooding in from every human vessel in the solar system. Every ship, from the smallest mining craft to the largest military dreadnoughts, had received identical alien transmissions showing a desperate plea for help. "The coordinates place their location in the Andromeda sector," reported her intelligence officer, Commander David Chen. "That's approximately 200,000 light-years from here. With our current FTL technology, it would take us about 3 weeks to reach them." "Are we certain this isn't some kind of elaborate hoax?" Thompson asked. "The energy signature is beyond anything humans have ever produced," Chen replied. "Our scientists estimate it would require the combined power output of several stars to generate a signal that strong. Whatever sent this message has technology far beyond our current capabilities." Dr. Lisa Martinez, Earth's leading xenobiologist, had been studying the transmission data. "Admiral, the biological data embedded in the signal suggests these beings are genuine. The physiological readings, the atmospheric composition of their worlds, even the molecular structure of their technology, it all checks out. These aren't humans in makeup, they're real aliens, and they're dying." Thompson studied the tactical reports. The Crimson Swarm, as the aliens called them, sounded like a nightmare scenario. A species that consumed entire worlds and adapted to every weapon used against them. If they ever reached human space, they could spell the end of everything humanity had built. "There's something else," Dr. Martinez continued. "The transmission included technical specifications. They've essentially given us the blueprints for their faster-than-light communication systems and what appears to be more efficient FTL travel. This information alone is worth billions in technological advancement." "So they're offering payment for help," Thompson mused. "More than that. They seem to believe we're something called Star Guardians. According to the cultural data in the transmission, these are legendary warriors from their mythology, beings of incredible power who emerge from the most dangerous world in the universe." Thompson almost laughed. "They think Earth is the most dangerous world in the universe?" "Admiral, have you ever really thought about Earth from an alien perspective?" Dr. Martinez asked. "Gravity nearly 3 times stronger than their homeworld. Radiation levels that would sterilize most known life forms. Weather patterns that can destroy entire cities. Predators that hunt in packs. Diseases that kill millions. Tectonic activity that splits continents. From their point of view, Earth isn't just dangerous. It's essentially uninhabitable." The room fell silent as everyone considered this perspective. To the humans present, Earth was simply home. They had never thought of their world as particularly hostile because they had evolved to thrive in its conditions. The aliens sent their distress call specifically looking for these mythical star guardians, Chen added. Their beacon was designed to find the toughest warriors in the galaxy. It found us. Thompson weighed the options. Humanity had always dreamed of making contact with alien civilizations, but not under these circumstances. The beings in the transmission were clearly peaceful, advanced, and in desperate need of help. The coordinates showed they were facing extinction from a threat that could potentially spread to human space if left unchecked. "How many ships can we deploy?" she asked. "The entire Fifth Fleet is currently on training exercises near Jupiter," Chen replied. 37 vessels, including the dreadnought Earth's Fury. We could have them ready for departure within 48 hours. "Do it," Thompson decided. "And Commander, send word to the alien coordinates. Tell them, help is coming." The journey begins. The Fifth Fleet departed Earth on what would later be remembered as humanity's first interstellar rescue mission. Led by the massive dreadnought Earth's Fury, the fleet consisted of cruisers, destroyers, and support vessels that represented the best of human military technology. Each ship was crewed by volunteers who had seen the alien transmission and chosen to answer the call for help. Aboard the Earth's Fury, Fleet Admiral Marcus Webb reviewed the tactical data one final time. The Crimson Swarm was unlike any enemy humanity had ever faced, but then again, humanity had a long history of defeating enemies that seemed impossible to overcome. "Estimated arrival at the Zephyrian system is 18 days, reported his navigation officer. "All ships are reporting ready status." Webb nodded, looking out at the stars that stretched before them. In less than 3 weeks, humanity would either save an alien civilization or face destruction themselves. Either way, they would not abandon beings who had asked for their help. The fleet jumped to faster-than-light travel, carrying Earth's answer to a desperate plea from across the galaxy. Behind them, Earth continued its rotation, unaware that its children were about to teach the universe what it meant to be born on a world that never stopped trying to kill you. In the void between stars, the human fleet raced toward a meeting that would change the destiny of 2 civilizations forever. The aliens had called for legendary warriors, and Earth had answered with something even more dangerous. Humans who had learned to survive on the most hostile world they knew, and who had chosen to use that strength to help others. The universe was about to discover why Earth's children called themselves the products of a death world. Arrival at Zephyria Prime, the human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Zephyrian system, and the sight that greeted them was both beautiful and heartbreaking. The system's primary world, Zephyria Prime, hung in space like a blue jewel, its surface covered in crystal spires that caught and reflected starlight. But the beauty was marred by the debris fields of destroyed ships and the ominous red glow on the horizon, where the Crimson Swarm had established their beachhead. Fleet Admiral Marcus Webb stood on the bridge of the Earth's Fury, watching the tactical displays update with real-time information about the alien system. The Zephyrian ships were things of beauty, sleek, organic-looking vessels that seemed to flow through space rather than fly. They were also clearly designed for peaceful purposes, lacking the heavy armor and weapons that characterized human military vessels. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the planet's surface," reported Communications Officer Lieutenant Sarah Kim. "It's the same frequency as the original distress signal. Put it through," Webb ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing a graceful alien figure with blue skin that seemed to shift and flow like water. The being's features were delicate and refined, with large eyes that held an intelligence that was unmistakably aware and emotional. When it spoke, the words came through the translation systems as melodic and careful. "Unknown vessels, I am Ambassador Theline of the Zephyrian Empire. We detect that you received our emergency beacon, but we are confused by your appearance. Our sensors indicate that your ships are of primitive construction, and your energy signatures suggest you come from a world that should not be able to support advanced life." Webb stepped forward, his weathered face showing the kind of confidence that came from decades of military service. "Ambassador Thaleen, I am Fleet Admiral Marcus Webb of the Earth Defense Force. We received your distress call and have come to offer assistance. We understand you're facing a threat called the Crimson Swarm. The ambassador's expression showed a mixture of gratitude and disappointment. We are grateful for your response, Admiral Webb. But I fear there has been a misunderstanding. Our beacon was designed to summon the Star Guardians, beings of legend who possess the power to face any threat. Your vessels appear to be constructed of simple metal alloys, and your weapon systems seem to rely on primitive kinetic energy. Captain Elena Rodriguez, who had been monitoring the transmission from her position as the fleet's reconnaissance coordinator, spoke up. Ambassador, with respect, we may not be the warriors from your legends, but we're here to help. Can you show us what we're dealing with? The true horror revealed. The Zephyrians transmitted their latest intelligence on the Crimson Swarm, and the human fleet command staff gathered in the briefing room to review the data. What they saw was disturbing on multiple levels. The Crimson Swarm were insectoid creatures roughly the size of human shuttlecraft, with chitinous exoskeletons that could deflect energy weapons and claws that could tear through most known materials. They traveled in massive swarms that could number in the hundreds of thousands, consuming everything organic they encountered and using the biomass to fuel their reproduction. They've consumed 17 Zephyrian worlds in the past 6 months, reported Intelligence Officer Commander Rebecca Torres. Their reproduction rate is exponential. Every world they consume allows them to double their numbers. Dr. Elizabeth Reeves, the fleet's xenobiologist, studied the biological data with growing concern. The Zephyrians have tried everything they can think of. Energy weapons, biological warfare, even nuclear strikes, nothing stops them. The creatures seem to adapt to every attack within hours. Webb examined the tactical reports. What about their technology? How do they travel between worlds? That's the terrifying part, Torres replied. They don't seem to have traditional spacecraft. They can survive in the vacuum of space and travel at near light speeds using some form of biological propulsion. They're essentially living weapons designed for one purpose: consumption. The briefing room fell silent as everyone absorbed the implications. This wasn't just a military threat. It was a force of nature that consumed entire civilizations. Sir, said Captain Rodriguez, the Zephyrians are expecting us to retreat. They think we're not capable of fighting these things. Webb studied the data for a long moment. Maybe we're not, but we came here to help and we're going to try. What do we know about their weaknesses? Dr. Reeves highlighted several data points. The Zephyrians have focused on energy-based weapons because that's their technology base. But looking at the biological data, these creatures have chitinous exoskeletons that are designed to deflect energy attacks. They're essentially living shields. What about physical attacks? Asked Commander Torres. That's where it gets interesting. The Zephyrians haven't tried many kinetic weapons because they consider them primitive. But the biological data suggests that the creature's armor is designed specifically to stop energy attacks. Physical impacts might be much more effective. Webb nodded slowly. Contact the Zephyrian ambassador. Tell her we'd like to examine one of their battle sites firsthand. The battlefield assessment. The human fleet moved to the Kepler 442 system, where the Zephyrians had made their most recent stand against the Crimson Swarm. The aftermath was devastating. 3 Zephyrian worlds had been completely stripped of all organic matter, leaving behind barren rocks floating in space. The orbital installations that had once housed millions of beings were now empty shells. But more importantly for the humans, the debris field contained the remains of both Zephyrian ships and Crimson Swarm creatures. The human fleet's science teams went to work immediately, analyzing wreckage and gathering data. The Zephyrian weapons are incredibly sophisticated, reported Chief Engineer Commander Paul Anderson from the research vessel Discovery. Their energy output is 10 times greater than our plasma cannons. But look at this. He displayed a scan of Crimson Swarm remains. The energy damage is all surface level. These creatures' carapaces are designed to absorb and redirect energy attacks. Captain Rodriguez was examining the tactical data from the battle. The Zephyrians fought them at long range, trying to use their superior energy weapons. The swarm just absorbed the attacks and closed to melee range, where they tore the ships apart. What about our weapons? Webb asked. Anderson ran simulations on his computer. Our kinetic weapons should be much more effective. The creature's armor is designed to stop energy attacks, but it's actually quite brittle against physical impacts. A tungsten rod fired at sufficient velocity should punch right through their carapaces. Dr. Reeves was studying the biological data. There's something else. These creatures communicate through pheromone releases. They're essentially a hive mind, but the communication is chemical, not electronic. That means they're vulnerable to disruption if we can affect their pheromone systems. Webb began to see the outline of a plan. Contact Ambassador Theline. Tell her we'd like to set up a joint operation to test our theories. The test of strength. The opportunity came sooner than expected. Zephyrian long-range sensors detected a small crimson swarm force approaching the agricultural world of Terra Nova, a lightly defended colony that the Zephyrians had been preparing to evacuate. Approximately 3,000 swarm creatures, Ambassador Theline reported to the human fleet. Our forces are insufficient to stop them, but we can evacuate most of the population before they arrive. Ambassador, Webb replied, we'd like to try something different. Would you be willing to let us engage these creatures while your forces observe? The Zephyrian response was immediate and concerned. Admiral, we appreciate your courage, but our most powerful warships have been destroyed by forces smaller than this. Your vessels, while impressive for their primitive technology, cannot hope to succeed where we have failed. Respectfully, Ambassador, we'd like to find out. The human fleet moved to intercept the Crimson Swarm force at the edge of the Terra Nova system. The Zephyrian observation ships maintained a safe distance, ready to flee if the humans were overwhelmed. Captain Rodriguez commanded the first wave of attack ships, a squadron of destroyers that would test the effectiveness of human kinetic weapons against the swarm. All ships remember the briefing. These creatures are expecting energy weapons. We're going to give them something they've never seen before. The Crimson Swarm detected the approaching human ships and began to form their standard attack formation, a tight cluster designed to maximize their collective energy absorption and protection. It was a formation that had never failed them against energy-based attacks. Target the leading edge of the formation, Rodriguez ordered. All ships fire tungsten rod salvos on my mark. The human destroyers opened fire simultaneously, launching dozens of tungsten rods at incredible velocities. The metal projectiles streaked through space, completely invisible to the swarm's energy-based sensors. The creatures had no idea what was coming until the rods began punching through their carapaces like bullets through paper. The effect was devastating. Dozens of swarm creatures were killed instantly, their bodies tumbling through space as their formation broke apart in confusion. The survivors tried to adapt, but their adaptive systems were designed to counter energy attacks. They had no defense against simple kinetic weapons. All ships press the attack, Rodriguez commanded. Show them what Earth's children can do. The human fleet moved into close combat range, something no Zephyrian commander had ever attempted. The swarm creatures tried to engage in their preferred melee combat, but the human ships were designed for exactly this kind of fighting. Armored hulls that could survive meteor impacts deflected the creatures' claws, while point defense systems fired thousands of rounds per minute into the swarm ranks. Within 30 minutes, the entire Crimson Swarm force was destroyed. Not a single human ship had been lost. The revelation aboard the Zephyrian observation ship, Ambassador Theline and her staff, watched the battle in stunned silence. The primitive, human vessels had just accomplished something that the most advanced Zephyrian fleets had never managed. They had completely annihilated a Crimson Swarm force without suffering casualties. "How is this possible?" whispered Commander Valix. "Their weapons are crude metal projectiles. Their ships are armored with simple steel alloys. By every measure, they should be inferior to our technology." Dr. Senna, the Zephyrian fleet's chief scientist, was analyzing the sensor data. "I think I understand. The humans come from what they call Earth, a world our sensors classified as a Class 12 death world. Look at these readings." The data showed Earth's environmental conditions. Gravity 3 times stronger than the Zephyrian norm, radiation levels that would be lethal to most known life forms, extreme weather patterns, and atmospheric conditions that would corrode most advanced materials. They didn't develop advanced technology because they didn't need it, Dr. Senna continued. They developed robust technology because anything delicate would be destroyed by their environment. Their weapons are simple because simple weapons work. Their ships are heavily armored because their world taught them that everything is trying to kill them. Ambassador Thaleen felt a chill of recognition. The beacon. It was designed to find warriors from the most dangerous world possible. We thought that meant beings with the most advanced weapons. But it actually meant beings who had learned to survive in the most hostile conditions. Ma'am, Balak said quietly, I think we may have underestimated what constitutes a death world. Admiral Webb's voice came over the communication channel. Ambassador Thaleen, we're ready to discuss strategy for dealing with the main swarm force. We have some ideas about how to turn their own adaptive systems against them. For the first time in months, Thaleen felt something she had almost forgotten. Hope. The humans might not be the mythical star guardians from legend, but they were something potentially even more valuable. They were survivors from a world that had spent millions of years trying to kill them, and they had learned to fight back. Admiral Webb, she replied, I believe we have much to learn from each other. What do you propose? The alliance forms. The next several days were a whirlwind of activity as human and Zephyrian forces worked together to plan their response to the Crimson Swarm threat. The humans quickly proved that their apparent technological disadvantage was actually a strategic advantage. Their weapons were reliable, their tactics were flexible, and their crews were trained to fight in conditions that would incapacitate most other species. Dr. Reeves worked closely with Zephyrian scientists to develop new weapons that combined the best of both technologies. Human kinetic weapons were enhanced with Zephyrian energy systems, creating projectiles that could punch through swarm armor and then release devastating energy bursts inside the creatures' bodies. Meanwhile, the Zephyrian manufacturing capabilities were put to work producing ammunition and spare parts for the human fleet. The crystal-based technology that the Zephyrians had developed was perfectly suited for rapid production of the simple, robust systems that human ships required. The cultural exchange has been fascinating, reported Dr. Martinez during a joint briefing. The Zephyrians have spent their entire evolutionary history avoiding conflict through diplomacy and negotiation. They've developed incredible technology, but they've never had to design it for warfare. Humans, on the other hand, have been fighting for survival since we first stood upright. Ambassador Thaleen had been spending time aboard human ships, learning about Earth culture and military doctrine. Your people have a saying, she said during one strategy session. If you want peace, prepare for war. My people have always sought peace by avoiding the possibility of war. We never prepared for the possibility that war might come to us. Fleet Admiral Webb nodded. That's not necessarily a bad thing, Ambassador. Your people have achieved things that humans can only dream of. You've created a civilization based on cooperation and mutual benefit. But when that civilization is threatened, you need warriors who understand conflict. The Crimson Swarm represents everything we've never had to face, Thaleen replied. They cannot be reasoned with, negotiated with, or appeased. They simply consume. It's a type of existence that our minds have difficulty comprehending. Captain Rodriguez, who had been studying swarm behavioral patterns, added, The good news is that their single-minded focus makes them predictable. They don't change tactics, they don't retreat, and they don't adapt their strategy. They just keep coming until they're all dead or they've consumed everything. Which brings us to our main advantage, Webb said. We can adapt faster than they can. Every time they encounter a new threat, they need time to develop countermeasures, but humans have been adapting to new threats for our entire evolutionary history. We can change tactics in the middle of a battle. The combined human-Zephyrian fleet began preparing for what would be the largest battle in the history of both civilizations. The main Crimson Swarm force was approaching the Zephyrian core worlds, and intelligence estimates suggested they numbered in the millions. Tomorrow, we find out if we can save your civilization, Webb told Thaleen as they reviewed the final battle plans. Tomorrow, she replied, we find out what happens when the children of a death world decide to protect the children of paradise, The stage was set for a confrontation that would determine the fate of an entire galactic sector. On one side, a force of consumption that had never known defeat. On the other, an alliance between the most peaceful civilization in the galaxy and the most warlike species they had ever encountered. The universe was about to learn what humans meant when they said that Earth had taught them to survive. The storm approaches. The crimson swarm emerged from the void between stars like a tide of living nightmares. Long-range sensors counted over 2 million individual creatures, each one the size of a human shuttle and driven by an insatiable hunger to consume all organic matter. They moved in perfect formation, a massive cloud of death that blotted out the stars as they approached the Zephyrian core worlds. Fleet Admiral Marcus Webb stood in the command center of the combined human-Zephyrian fleet, watching the tactical displays update in real time. The Alliance had managed to assemble nearly 400 ships, including the remaining Zephyrian vessels and the entire human expeditionary force. It was the largest fleet either species had ever deployed, but it still seemed pitifully small compared to the approaching swarm. Final count is 2.3 million individual swarm units, reported Intelligence Officer Commander Rebecca Torres. They're maintaining standard formation, dense clusters with overlapping defensive patterns. Estimated time to engagement is 14 hours. Ambassador Thaline moved gracefully to Webb's side, her blue features showing the strain of the past, weeks' preparations. Admiral, our evacuation fleets have successfully relocated the populations of 7 core worlds. If this battle fails, we have preserved approximately 60% of our people. It won't fail, Webb replied with the kind of confidence that could only come from a lifetime of military service. We have advantages they've never faced before. The past 6 days had been a whirlwind of innovation and preparation. Human engineers had worked around the clock with Zephyrian scientists to create hybrid weapon systems that combined the best of both technologies. The Zephyrian manufacturing centers had produced millions of specially designed projectiles that could penetrate swarm armor and release chemical compounds designed to disrupt their pheromone communication systems. More importantly, the humans had shared their most valuable asset, tactical doctrine based on fighting enemies that were bigger, stronger, and more numerous than themselves. Every human military academy taught courses on asymmetric warfare, because Earth's history was filled with examples of smaller forces defeating larger ones through superior strategy and adaptability. Status report from all fleet divisions. Webb. Ordered. Captain Elena Rodriguez, now commanding the 1st Attack Squadron, reported from her position aboard the destroyer Relentless. 1st Squadron ready. All ships equipped with enhanced kinetic weapons and chemical disruption charges. Commander David Chen, leading the Zephyrian vessels that had been retrofitted with human weapon systems, followed. Zephyrian Defense Wing. Operational. Our energy weapons have been recalibrated to support human kinetic attacks rather than lead them. Dr. Elizabeth Reeves, coordinating from the Science Vessel Discovery, added her report. All biological warfare systems are online. We've loaded every ship with aerosol dispensers containing pheromone disruptors. If we can break their communication systems, their coordination will collapse. Webb nodded approvingly. The combined fleet represented something unprecedented in galactic history, a fusion of 2 completely different approaches to warfare. The Zephyrians had provided technological sophistication and manufacturing capacity, while the humans had contributed tactical knowledge and the psychological ability to face overwhelming odds without flinching. The nature of human warfare, as the fleets prepared for battle, Ambassador Thaline found herself aboard the human flagship Earth's Fury, observing the final preparations. What she saw challenged everything she thought she knew about civilized behavior. The human crew moved with a purposeful intensity that seemed almost predatory. They checked and rechecked their weapon systems with the kind of focused attention that the Zephyrians usually reserved for artistic endeavors. When they spoke, their voices carried an edge of anticipation that was both fascinating and slightly frightening. Ambassador, said Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Park, the fleet's Marine commander, would you like to observe our final briefing? Thaline agreed, curious to understand how these beings from a death world prepared for combat. What she witnessed in The briefing room was unlike anything in Zephyrian military doctrine. "Remember, these things are big, but they're stupid," Park told her Marines. "They've never faced boarding actions because no civilized species is crazy enough to try boarding. They're ships. That's why we're going to do exactly that." The plan was audacious beyond belief. While the main fleet engaged the swarm in conventional combat, human marine units would use small, fast ships to penetrate the swarm formation and board the largest creatures. The goal was to plant explosive charges inside the creatures' bodies, creating massive internal damage that their adaptive systems couldn't repair. "Sir," asked Sergeant Mike Torres, "what if we encounter creatures too large for conventional explosives?" Park grinned with the kind of expression that made Thayline understand why humans were considered apex predators on their homeworld. "Then we get creative. Remember, we're not trying to win a fair fight. We're trying to survive, and survival means using every advantage we can find." The briefing continued with discussions of tactics that seemed impossibly reckless to Zephyrian sensibilities. The humans planned to fight inside the bodies of creatures that could tear apart starships. They would operate in environments that lacked atmosphere, gravity, or any of the normal conditions required for life. Most shocking of all, they seemed excited about the prospect. "This is how your species has always fought?" Thayline asked Dr. Martinez, who was observing the briefing. "More or less," Martinez replied. "Humans evolved as persistence hunters. We're not the strongest or fastest predators on Earth, but we're the most adaptable. We keep coming, no matter how bad the situation gets. It's served us well for millions of years." The battle begins. The Crimson Swarm reached the outer perimeter of the Zephyrian system at 0800 hours ship time. They moved with the inexorable certainty of a natural disaster, their formations perfectly calculated to maximize their collective defensive capabilities. They had used these same tactics to destroy hundreds of fleets across dozens of star systems. They had never failed. "All ships, this is Admiral Webb," the fleet commander's voice carried across all communication channels. "Today we're fighting for more than just military victory. We're fighting to prove that intelligence and adaptability can triumph over brute force. We're fighting to show the galaxy that peaceful civilizations have the right to exist without fear. Let's give these bugs a lesson in what happens when they mess with Earth's allies." The human fleet moved first, their ships accelerating to attack, speeds that made the Zephyrian observers gasp in alarm. Human vessels were built for exactly this kind of high-stress combat, with reinforced hulls and inertial compensation systems that allowed them to maneuver at accelerations that would incapacitate most other species. Captain Rodriguez led the first wave, her destroyer squadron diving directly into the swarm formation like a spear thrust into a beast's heart. "All ships, target the leading edge. Remember, we're not trying to destroy them all. We're trying to disrupt their formation." The human kinetic weapons opened fire at close range, tungsten rods and explosive shells tearing through swarm creatures that had never faced physical projectiles. The creatures' adaptive armor, designed to absorb and redirect energy attacks, proved useless against simple metal moving at incredible velocities. But the real surprise came when the Zephyrian vessels joined the attack. Their weapons had been recalibrated to work in coordination with human tactics rather than replace them. Crystal-based energy beams didn't try to destroy swarm creatures directly. Instead, they blinded and confused them, making them easy targets for human kinetic weapons. "This is impossible," whispered Commander Valix from his position aboard a Zephyrian cruiser. "The swarm formation is breaking apart. They're designed to maintain perfect coordination under any attack." Dr. Senna was monitoring the biological disruption systems. "The pheromone disruptors are working beyond our most optimistic projections. The creatures can't communicate with each other. They're reverting to individual hunting behaviors instead of coordinated swarm tactics." The battle raged for 3 hours, with human and Zephyrian forces working together in ways that neither species had thought possible. The humans provided the aggressive tactics and adaptable thinking, while the Zephyrians contributed technological sophistication and manufacturing support. Together, they were achieving something that neither could have accomplished alone. The boarding actions. While the main fleet battle continued, Lieutenant Colonel Park led her Marine units on the most audacious mission in military history. Using Small, fast ships designed for stealth rather than combat, the human Marines penetrated deep into the swarm formation and began boarding the largest creatures. "Remember, these things have never faced internal attackers," Park reminded her teams, over the comm system. "They don't have internal defenses because no species has ever been crazy enough to try this." Sergeant Torres led the first boarding party through a breach cut by shaped charges in a creature's carapace. What they found inside was a maze of organic corridors filled with acidic atmosphere and temperatures that would have killed most known life forms. For humans wearing environmental suits designed to operate in the vacuum of space, it was just another day at the office. "This is Alpha Team," Torres reported. "We're inside the primary creature. The internal structure is more complex than we expected, but the environment isn't significantly worse than working on a damaged ship during a solar storm." The Marines moved through the creature's body with the efficiency of a surgical team. They planted explosive charges at critical junctions, targeting organs that their brief study of swarm biology had identified as essential for life support. More importantly, they released aerosol canisters filled with the pheromone disruptors that would prevent the creature from communicating with its swarm mates. "Charges planted," Torres announced, "extracting in 30 seconds. The explosion that followed was visible from across the battle zone. The massive swarm creature, easily the size of a battleship, convulsed and died from internal damage that its adaptive systems couldn't repair. Around it, dozens of smaller creatures lost coordination as their pheromone communication systems failed. "All boarding teams, excellent work," Park announced. "Continue operations. We're proving that size doesn't matter if you know where to hit." Ambassador Thaline watched the boarding operations from the command center of the Earth's Fury, her understanding of warfare fundamentally altered by what she was witnessing. "Your Marines are fighting inside living creatures in conditions that would kill most life forms in minutes. How is this possible?" Fleet Admiral Webb smiled grimly. "Ambassador, humans evolved on a planet where everything was trying to kill us. We learned to fight in environments that other species consider uninhabitable. These swarm creatures think they're tough because they can survive in vacuum. That's just Tuesday for a human Marine." The tide turns. As the battle progressed, the advantages of human tactical thinking became increasingly apparent. While the swarm creatures tried to adapt to the new weapons and tactics being used against them, the human commanders continuously changed their approach. Every time the creatures began to develop countermeasures, the humans switched to completely different tactics. "They're getting faster at adapting to our kinetic weapons," reported Commander Torres from his analysis station. "Then we stop using kinetic weapons as primary attack vectors," Webb replied immediately. "All ships, switch to disruption pattern Delta. Use kinetic weapons for suppression only. Focus on chemical and biological attacks." The fleet instantly adapted, proving something that the swarm's collective intelligence couldn't understand. Humans could change their entire tactical approach in the middle of a battle. The creature's adaptive systems, designed to counter specific weapons and tactics, couldn't keep up with an enemy that refused to use the same strategy twice. Dr. Reeves coordinated the biological warfare assault from her position aboard the Discovery. "The pheromone disruptors are causing cascade failures throughout their formation. Individual creatures are losing contact with the collective intelligence and reverting to base instincts. This proved to be the key to victory. The Crimson Swarm's greatest strength, their perfect coordination and collective intelligence, became their greatest weakness when humans found a way to disrupt their communication systems. Individual creatures, separated from the swarm intelligence, were little more than very large, very hungry animals. "All ships press the attack," Webb ordered. "They're no longer fighting as a coordinated force. Take them down before they can re-establish communication." The aftermath of victory. 6 hours after the battle began, the last Crimson Swarm creature died in the vacuum of space around Zephyria Prime. The greatest threat the galaxy had faced, in millennia, had been defeated by a combined force of peaceful crystal beings and aggressive mammals, from a world that most species considered uninhabitable. The cost had been significant. 12 human ships lost along with 37 Zephyrian vessels. But the victory was complete. More importantly, The captured biological data and tactical knowledge meant that any future swarm incursions could be dealt with quickly and efficiently. Ambassador Thaline stood in the observation deck of the Earth's Fury, looking out at the debris field that marked the end of an age of terror for her people. Around her, human and Zephyrian crew members worked together to coordinate rescue operations and salvage efforts. "Admiral Webb," she said as the human commander joined her, "I owe you an apology. When our beacon found your people, I thought it had made a mistake. I believed we needed mythical warriors with impossible powers." Webb shook his head. "Your beacon worked exactly as designed, Ambassador. It found the greatest warriors in the galaxy. The problem was that you didn't understand what makes someone a great warrior." "And what is that?" "It's not having the biggest weapons or the most advanced technology," Webb explained. "It's having the will to keep fighting when everything seems hopeless. It's being able to adapt faster than your enemy can respond. Most importantly, it's being willing to protect others, even when it means risking everything you have." Dr. Martinez approached them with a data pad full of analysis reports. "The biological data we've gathered will revolutionize our understanding of adaptive organisms. More importantly, we've proven that the swarm can be defeated. Any future incursions can be stopped using the tactics we've developed." Thaline nodded, but her thoughts were already moving beyond military considerations. "Admiral, what happens now? Your people have saved our civilization, but we have little to offer in return. Your technology is more robust than ours. Your tactics are superior, and your people are clearly better suited for military operations." Webb smiled, the expression transforming his weathered features. "Ambassador, you're still thinking like, this is about military superiority. That's not what this was about." "Then what was it about?" "It was about proving that different species can work together to solve problems that neither could handle alone. Your people provided the technology and manufacturing capability we needed. Our people provided the tactical knowledge and willingness to take risks. Together, we accomplished something impossible." Captain Rodriguez, who had joined them from her successful command of the attack squadrons, added, "The galaxy is a big place with a lot of dangers we haven't discovered yet. Humans learned a long time ago that it's better to have allies than to face threats alone." A new alliance. In the weeks that followed the victory over the Crimson Swarm, the relationship between humans and Zephyrians evolved into something unprecedented in galactic history. The Zephyrians offered their advanced manufacturing technology and scientific knowledge, while humans provided military expertise and a psychological resilience that came from evolving on a world that never stopped testing its inhabitants. The first joint human-Zephyrian research station was established in orbit around Zephyria Prime, with scientists from both species working together on projects that would benefit the entire galaxy. Human adaptability combined with Zephyrian technological sophistication produced innovations that neither species could have achieved alone. More importantly, the victory had attracted attention from other species throughout the local galactic sector. Peaceful civilizations that had lived in fear of potential threats began reaching out to the new alliance, seeking protection and partnership. "We're receiving diplomatic communications from over 40 different species," reported Commander Chen during a joint staff meeting. "They all want to know more about our alliance and whether we might be willing to help them with their own security concerns." Ambassador Thaline, now serving as the Zephyrian liaison to the growing interspecies alliance, smiled with genuine happiness. "A year ago, my people were facing extinction. Now we're part of something that could transform the galaxy." Fleet Admiral Webb nodded approvingly. "That's what happens when people choose cooperation over competition. The universe is dangerous. Enough without fighting each other." Dr. Reeves presented her latest research findings. "We're learning that the Crimson Swarm was just one of many potential threats out there. There are other aggressive species, natural disasters, and cosmic phenomena that could threaten entire civilizations. No single species can handle all of these challenges alone, but working together we might be able to handle anything," added Dr. Martinez. The legacy of Earth's children. As the human fleet prepared to return to Earth with news of their successful mission, the relationship between the two species had evolved into something that would reshape galactic politics for generations to come. The humans had proven that advanced technology wasn't the only measure of a civilization's worth, while the Zephyrians had shown that peaceful species could learn to defend themselves when necessity demanded it. Your people will always be welcome in Zephyrian space, Thaline told Webb during their final meeting. More than that, we hope this is just the beginning of our alliance. Webb shook her delicate blue hand with his calloused human one, a gesture that symbolized the bridging of two completely different evolutionary paths. Earth's children learned a long time ago that the universe is more interesting when you have friends to share it with. The human fleet departed Zephyrian space carrying more than just military victory. They carried the knowledge that humanity had found its place in a larger galactic community, not as conquerors or subjects, but as partners in the ancient struggle against chaos and destruction. Behind them, the crystal spires of Zephyria Prime caught the light of their system's star, reflecting it across space in patterns of beauty that would endure for millennia. Around those spires, human and Zephyrian ships patrolled together, guardians of a peace that had been earned through courage, sacrifice, and the willingness to help others in their darkest hour. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Sometimes, the greatest warriors weren't the ones with the biggest weapons or the most advanced technology. Sometimes they were simply the ones who refused to give up, no matter how impossible the odds seemed. And in the vast depths of space, other species watching the events unfold began to understand that Earth's children, the survivors of a world that had tried to kill them for millions of years, had brought something new to the galaxy. The unshakable belief that any problem could be solved if enough people were willing to work together to solve it. The age of isolation was ending. The age of cooperation had begun. The end